Good
Uh,
morning. I am higher vibrations and so are you. And I am so honored and just I've always loved connecting with Dr. Joe, Dr. Lightheart, and having you on the show today. I've just been looking forward to it for quite some time. I knew that this was going to come, so I've been looking forward to it for a couple of months. I've just been kind of waiting for the window when it would happen. So I just want to say welcome and how are you today?
yeah, I'm great. Yeah, I'm all right. I'm happy with myself. I've got no complaints. Well, I've got loads of complaints if I dig deep enough, but I think all in all, I'm following the instructions and just trying to do my best one day at a time because that's how I live now. That's from Alcoholics Anonymous. I'm 33 years and over sober now and clean and sober, and that's where I got most of my instructions. Actually, I follow the principles to the letter, and it's holding me in good stead, really. And for a lot of people, they don't know what AA is. They think it's just to do with alcohol. It's got very, very little to do with alcohol. It's
Right.
more about realigning with your essential self. And I think I'm getting better all the time at that, really. We've just been talking about it. You think you're your authentic, real self until you find out you've been pretending for years.
Yeah.
And
And
I'm all
then
right with that. There's either real or synthetic or real and pretentious. And it's only when something sort of comes up and hits you in the face, you realize, oh, right, I see that now. I don't know about you, Mella, but I'm all right finding out about myself now, and any bubbles of repression and things that have been hidden, then I'm okay now. Bring it on. I don't care. And no matter what emerges, I've got the tools now to deal with it properly.
right. And a lot of those tools I actually received too from going being I was a part of Alcoholics Anonymous in a more of like a spectator kind of version of it, I guess. However, I did the steps. I mean, like I found so much use in what was taught there, and I agree with you in saying that because, you can change the word alcohol and make it be anything that you want. That you're the issue that's being worked on, but then also too, you're you're beginning the process of learning how to layers to find yourself underneath there somewhere.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. And I think it's pretty tough. I think in AA they say, there's an insistence that you're at your rock bottom, really. That you've tried everything and you're willing now to sort of surrender to the next level of your own evolution, really. And yeah, I only know that now looking back, because at the time I didn't have a clue what I was doing, to be honest with you. I just followed the instructions from somebody else who'd been through the program. And so I see AA as a deprogramming, really.
Yeah.
And it's basically to take action, right? And you don't want to do it because it's basically to destroy or dissolve the bonds to your sort of frightened ego, really. you know and I knew, because they talk about God a
Right.
lot, and I'm not a religious person, but God to me just means good, a feel good thing, really. And if I'm open and flowing these days, I
Mm.
just keep going. I don't try and work out what's happening because that normally blocks it straight away. But if I'm open and flowing, I just keep going, and I try and find the joy of living every single day. And does that mean I have wonderful days? No, no, I have some really shitty days, but at least here's my thing is, at the end of the day, I can say to myself, well, I haven't had a drink or a drug today, and that's good enough for me.
Yeah. Yeah. That's awesome.
Yeah.
And the more clear minded we can be during this awakening window, the better also for any of you listening.
Yeah.
I know a lot of people, and I'm not saying don't do what you feel like is aligned for you. However, I have noticed for my in my own world that once I removed myself from some of these other chemicals, then I was able to connect with spirit realm a lot stronger, a lot clearer, and the euphoric sensations stuck around a lot longer. There was dips when you kind of utilize chemicals. I find my eyes twitching. Can you see it? It's big.
It's aye, 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 aye. It's like that one eye's eye than the other. Yeah, I agree with you. And I try and be clean and sober and stuff like that. And whatever anybody else wants to do, that's fine. But I go now with what I deeply feel is correct for me. As long as I'm not trying to harm anybody consciously, or I'm not taking on board any shit as best I can, then that's the end of the story for me. It's become really, really simple. And I've got this approach called the F off approach. It's focus on feelings first, not thinking, because that's where all the nonsense is there. This is the seat of stinking thinking. And this is where freedom lies, I think, really, And so there's this and that, and then there's the other. And I think it's where the other is where the solution is to all these things, really.
Right.
Never know what I'm going to say on these things. You just come out with it, and think, what's it? I'm like watching myself thinking, what's he going on about now? It's like somebody else is speaking, really.
Yeah. I 100%. That's channeling.
Yeah.
Like everybody, I find this to be really fascinating. A lot of people I'll connect with, once they identify are able to notice the moment that what you would call me being I'm channeling right then. After a while, they start to realize from witnessing these different moments that everyone channels. Yeah. Everyone channels. It's not a unique quality. It's simply a bike, learning to ride that bike, understanding that it's okay to have training wheels. It's okay to have your mom or dad holding the back of the bike for you. It's okay to have support and learning as you go through it in order to, become more clear and precise in the message. It's just some of us have had more experience, and so we've had more trial and error.
Yeah. Just a case of practicing, like everything else, isn't it, really? I think for a long time I was pretending to be happy and flowing and free and everything, and it was bollocks, really. I was pretending because I had some idea on what it was supposed to be like to be a carrier of light or a way shower, you know. And so I was doing that act thing, right? And I think you have to go through that until you get a bit of space to realize that you're acting and pretending again, And that's what I've got. Right. Well, I mean, it might change tomorrow, and but I've got space now, almost watching Joe performing. But people say, "Oh, I'm not channeling," and I don't know what that means. There's a lot of stuff that people talk about, and I think I don't know what you're talking about. But to me, it means that I'm not editing anything. I've not rehearsed anything. I haven't even planned anything. I'll just turn up, open me gob. That's me mouth. That's a UK expression for mouth, and just see what comes out, really. And I just try and sort of have a feeling that it's coming up from my heart rather than coming down from my head.
Yeah. That's it. I mean, it's a form of light language. That's how light language is done too. And I'm not somebody who is like able to really tell you a lot about light language, except for those I've talked to who do it quite a lot. You do though. You do rock language?
Yeah, he'd be up later. I've got a feeling he's like hanging around in the background, because I got a feeling, and it's not making it up. It's like, get out of the way. I want to talk to them, and this is, and in the in the old days, it was like I was possessed, But I've come to realize that was my protection. That's been with me all of my life, right? And when I was on the piss, when I was on the drink, all these things used to come out like a demon possessed man, and people used to like clear the room. But I see today that, you can't really know beauty until you've been in the belly of the beast, and I know that that's true now. And I know that you talk obviously about ascension a lot, but I talk about descension a lot as well, because I don't see it in a linear way. I see that ascension as such, or higher vibrations or whatever, I see the whole thing as a sphere, and I think that maybe we come here just to plug north by northwest, and somebody else might come in and do southeast, and so I don't really see it in a climbing Jacob's ladder as such, just almost like plugging holes in the leaking aura. I've got no idea. This is good. We're recording this. I'll have to play this back and see what he was going on about.
Yeah, I love that too. It's so much fun to go back, and especially I'll have conversations with people I'm used to having on the show and just not off the show, and then be like, oh, that wasn't recorded. I can't rewind that. It's really fun. I agree with you 100%. In fact, everything's about spheres. Everything. That's what this is. Like everything is in this sphere. And like, so I try to explain like the different worlds. Like this is old Earth, new Earth, the newest new Earth. But it doesn't look like that. They're not side by side. They're like Russian nesting dolls. And the one that we would consider like old Earth, I don't know. When it shakes and it causes a vibration that is only felt by those closest to it, the vibration isn't as strong. Though if this outside orb had a shaking, most would feel it. And a lot of us are feeling, and like you said, that's still a linear way of trying to explain something, because it's all one thing simultaneously, but what we're feeling a lot of times when we talk about ascension symptoms is these outer layers in vibration, and they're drawing us, helping us to, we use the word up. I agree with you too. You go down to go up.
Yeah.
It's it's part of the language that people in the spiritual community speak. I agree with you.
It's like the deeper I sink, the more expanded my head becomes, really. So I get a bigger picture the deeper I go. And I suppose in a way it's all about living in let go, just completely let go, and living in becoming nothing. This is what I try and explain to people. Become nothing, and in that paradox you start to understand everything. It's like guru speak, isn't it? And they think, oh fuck, oh flipping heck, he's off on all that sort of mad talking again. But it is irony, and it's paradoxical, and it's hard to understand. But people who sort of are on the same wavelength understand completely what we're going on about. Because you see them nodding and think, oh, I'm like that. Oh, virtual background shut down. Another. Oh, they are.
The only way to fix it is to leave and come back. You're welcome to leave it the way it is.
Just my bookcase at the back with all the rubbish on. It's no problem.
Oh, you're
fine. I say to people, I'm in the office, and I'm not in the office. I'm in like a bedroom with all sorts of junk in it and stuff like that.
It looks great. In fact, I'm in a bedroom. Yeah. Their bed's way over there, but I'm in a bedroom right now. I have a curtain. Otherwise, I don't. If mine goes down, then you just see green.
Well, funny enough, I've got a green screen, but I can't be arsed putting it up. You know what I mean? It's like I've got all sorts of stands and a great screen, and I think, oh, I can't be bothered anymore.
You know what I've done is I put a cord. I strung it across from one wall to the other. And now it's just a curtain. I just slide it closed and open.
I've had that technique, and then I thought I got a bit better and got sort of poles, and I just can't be bothered doing it anymore. Sometimes when I'm doing my professional stuff, I'll put like an anatomy and physiology picture behind and stuff like that, just to show I say a few medical things every now and then, really.
To be professional. Yeah. Hey, what specialty are you? Doesn't it have to do with the brain area?
Yeah, I'm not a doctor of medicine in that I prescribe medicines to anybody. I've got a PhD in medicine, and all that means is that I spent 7 years studying how breathing affects the heart, and how the signals from the heart affect the way our brain waves work. So rather than going into, say, if anyone wants to change their behavior, rather than going in here and putting some sort of new behavior words in, you can actually change the way your heart works by breathing in a certain way. See, most people know what they need to do to change. This is the root of addiction, but they haven't got sufficient power, right? And so basically they try and psych themselves into changing, and it actually exhausts them quickly, and they just rebound into the old behavior. Well, the way to do it is, if you breathe in a certain way, I mean, to open the gate, really, it's to breathe at 6 breaths per minute with a positive emotion. And what that does is, because there's two wires that go into the heart, one's an accelerator and one's a brake. So one speeds your heart up and one slows it down. Now, most of the time when we're stressed, both of those are going like that at the same time. They're actually fighting with one another. There's a posh word, it's called accentuated antagonism, it's called. And it's when these two wires are like freaking out and vibrating, but there's no coherence or harmony between them. At 6 breaths per minute with a positive emotion, they start to work in harmony with one another. And when you get into that feeling, you get into that 0 point or that neutral space. some people call it the space between breaths. When you get into that space, your head opens up and all sorts of inspiration flows in. And that's really what meditation is. Meditation is breathing coherently in order for your head to open up, right? And just basically ask for inspiration. Because in the same way, and you know this, Mela, we get in touch, or our innate intelligence or our deeper intelligence or our higher power, it comes in then, and if the ego then says, I don't really know what's going on here, I wonder, dear heart or soul, can you help me? And then what happens is, if you remain relaxed and trusting, it's almost like all sorts of coincidences keep coming in to say, turn left. And my head says, I wonder, should I turn right? And you get another one that says, no, turn left, and after about 100 turn lefts, the head goes, maybe you should turn left. You know what I mean? Does that make sense?
Yeah. Yeah.
So I'm what's
100%.
called a psychoneuroendocrino-immunohematologist. Right.
Wow, that's a whole can of alphabet soup.
Yeah. And what it means is the psycho bit, it means we're barking mad, so psycho. No, psycho to me is perception, how we see the world. The neuro bit sends electrons down the nervous system, which then stimulates the endocrine glands. So we've got perception, so we've got signals coming from our consciousness, send specific signals down the nervous system to our glands, which then secrete biochemical substances in relation to the first information that we picked up. That then floods into the plasma, into the hematology, into the biochemistry, which impact upon our stem cells, which is who we become. So we literally, as we see the world, that's what we become. And so in order to change and become something different, we don't need to do it from this end down here. We just need to change the way that we perceive the world. Good grief. Did that make sense?
Yes. And it's so cool that there's a as above, so below science explanation for what we know is true. Hey, it's 222 right now. Just as I said, what we know is true, it changed.
Yeah, it's
back to you.
But so what I found was during the course of my study, because I believe that I get guided and guarded and guided all the time, and I get loads of inspiration. It just goes, poof, have you thought about that? And I just say thanks very much, But it's not something outside of me that's feeding me. It's actually my next level of understanding, really. So I think information fires through, and down here I've got to try and pay attention and then translate it and then put it across in a way that more people understand. My job really is to grow in understanding and effectiveness of passing the message. And people say to me, well, what's the message? And the message is dead simple. What you're looking for isn't in there. It's in there. And from a physiological point of view, the way we breathe determines the information that goes back into our head. So if we're frightened in our heart, it's going to send defensiveness, and we're going to tense up, and we're in the fight all the time. And when we're in the fight, we'll come out with the first 7 years of coping strategies that we developed as children. So when we're in the fight, we can't think in an expanded way. We can just think, get me out of here. You see what I mean? And so more of us now are being distracted away from our bodies into the external world, because that's where we are being told all the answers are, when in reality it's not. It's dead simple, really. Is stop expecting and start inspecting, because what you're looking for is waiting for you to ask the question and reconnect with it. Feel like I'm in lecture mode now. Over to you.
I love that language play. Stop expecting and start inspecting, because that's exactly how it works. This is also like I'm often teaching people who join me for sessions and stuff how to do manifestation, how to act to use manifestation in a way that they are able to align their outside world with what they would really want for an alignment within. And this is exactly how it's done, is that you become it. One of my favorite tricks is to have them write letters to themselves or to home saying, guess what? This awesome thing happened. And it's not just the visualization of it, it's mostly the emotion.
Absolutely.
And that's exactly what science proves. I love that it proves it.
Well, emotion, I mean, this is the thing, is that I was trying to anesthetize my emotions all the time, because I've always been, like most of us who listen to these, we've been supremely sensitive for a reason. But in order to live in a toxic world, we almost have to close down. Now, it depends. If you're physically strong, you can stand up for yourself. But most of us step back and we try and sort of keep out of the way of stuff. But we keep getting dragged into it, and that's where I was. That's where I was for a long time. I was on all sorts of medications. I had terrible eczema. I was always itching myself or scratching my legs until they bled, and all this sort of nonsense, And it was all because my essential real soul self was trying to express itself, but I was afraid to let it out. And when I drank, right, temporarily, that disinhibited me, and out came this monster. You know what I mean? It was like I'd have a few drinks and it was, "Hello, darling, how are you?" And it was and that got me into all sorts of trouble. Then, and then I'd wake up the next day to think, "Aye." And then people would start saying to me, "Do you remember what you did last night?" And to this day, I've got no idea, right? And if someone stopped me in the street and said, "Don't you remember getting married to me?" I'd think, "I'm sorry about that. I've got no memory of it whatsoever." But as I say,
somebody showing up, Papa.
You know yourself. I've got, there's a phrase, and people don't like this, but I'm going to say it anyway. You're only as sick as your secrets, right? And that just means that there's stuff in our unconscious minds, and I say unconscious because we're not aware of it, that's been hidden there because we were afraid to face it. And I think what's happening now is this great big shift in consciousness now, which is a cleansing energy, which is a feminine, cleansing, nurturing, compassion and caring energy, is coming to say, you've buried all sorts of this shit and it's making you unwell. So what I'm going to do, this energy, I'm going to let you see a bit of the stuff so that you can deal with it now in the correct way. Because when you take the correct action, you will realign closer to your soul source self, and you'll start to get more energy, more courage in order to be able to face all the other stuff that's coming, So it's a fact-finding and a fact-facing process that we're all going through, whether we like it or not. But thank goodness we've got the tools. And what are the tools? Is to share it with a trusted person and say, "Look, this is playing on my mind. It's come up, right? Will you just listen?" And we're not asking the other person for advice as to what to do, because as soon as it's off our chest, the solution follows right behind it from ourselves. Christ, I'm on one now. Quick, stop me.
Well, you're down the path that I've been really focusing on too. Is this so the technology of the bumblebee? It makes sense, I promise. Is that I bring this up now? There's a file path. Is that they've finally discovered, or at least told people, that the weight, because we know that it based on aerodynamics and basic physics, it shouldn't fly. Its weight is far too much to bear the weight by the wings itself, is what they explain. And it's true. Anyway, they've discovered that what it is that occurs is that they vibrate in their heart center, right here in the same area we're talking about. And they are able to then levitate, and their wings keep them from spinning and also help steering as they go. And the reason this is significant is right now there's this understanding of the same. This is what Spirit's been talking to me about for a while now, actually, is that the getting it off your chest. Your plate's too full. Express yourself. What's express yourself? That's also removing that off your chest, basically, right? It's pulling in. Your plate is too full. They're talking about your breastplate. If your breastplate has too much on it, and that's where the secrets, the layer, and just like even if it's not secrets, it's just not shared.
Yeah.
Just carrying it, you're not putting it down. Then it covers. It actually has this awesome like this kind of light behind me in these streaks. It's like sacred geometry that swirls and changes right here. And if it's covered, then we're not able to be our full powerful self. Just in the heart center is the main place where all of the light, all of the awesomeness comes in through. We all often in meditation will start our crown chakra, sometimes our root, but its more natural delivery system is into the heart center, and so this also is accelerated, more balanced when we're able to get it off of our chest.
Yeah. And that's why when people who don't know this, when they keep a lot of stuff in and then for some reason they just kick off and fire it all out, it's very destructive. But temporarily they feel better afterwards, because they call it only venting the spleen. Because the spleen, I mean, Elsa's on now and she talks a lot about the spleen. The spleen is the major energy center that feeds the heart and the immune system, because the thymus gland is there and stuff like that. So if you don't allow the energy, it's called the energy triangle or the pranic triangle, to give it its technical term. If that's not flowing all the time, then there's like congestion. We start to get colds and flu, and then we're not able to develop antibodies properly and stuff like this. So it's just got to be flowing all the time. Movement is so important. I mean, I don't know about you. I'm a so-called Reiki master, whatever that means, and it just means that I can feel energy coming, and I do this thing called Shaktipat, and it's sort of I've learned, sort of been shown from the inside out, to allow the energy to come through, and it's almost like I connect with people at a soul-to-soul level. I sort of say a little thing first to say, is it okay for me to connect with you at this level? And I get yeah, no problem, carry on, And then I do that then. And what tends to happen is I just try and get guided by how I feel. And it's almost like sometimes a great big globule of emotion comes up, and people can laugh hilariously, or they just burst into tears and stuff like that, which I understand,
Yeah.
So then they get relieved of it, really. But one thing I do know is that from a karmic point of view, if you've got to take an action in order to grow emotionally, no amount of healing can help you, right? Because that's part of your personal responsibility to what you signed up for before you came here,
Right.
So you can't go to, I mean, all these med beds and stuff. It'd be nice to go 12, 13, 4, put all sorts of different frequencies in. Now you are a pure person. I personally don't feel, and I could be totally wrong, and if I am, that's good. But I don't feel that anybody's going to get away with anything that they signed up for.
That's right. I feel that too. I mean, I know that there are devices that amplify, that's something that's really a persistent message that I keep being reminded to share by spirit, is like, I'm going to use the example of a crystal. This is a powerful little tool. It does a lot of stuff. It does it because it amplifies your within.
Yeah.
It isn't the source of your power. It's simply a way to fine tune when we're still learning. It's training wheels, basically, right? And just as you said, I've had a reset a couple of weeks ago that I've been living in the past 24 days, or excuse me, I said 24 hours and I said days. I actually meant years. It brought me back. It was just before 9/11 that this started. And it brought me back to right before 9/11 happened in my life. And what I mean by that is I suddenly was this person. I was suddenly 24 years younger. And I had this amazing, incredible, crazy experience. And I thought that in itself was the most profound. But I've been living in this, I guess you could say I've been living in the past in a way, though it's meant to, just as you were saying, come up right at this precise moment.
Absolutely.
In order for it to be healed. And yeah, I feel very much like you said before, that it's this divine feminine energy, and it feels like a female dragon with this mama bear kind of roar almost. And she comes in and she's here to help us out, but she wants you to stop hurting yourself because you're her kid. It's that complicated. Yeah. I love you. Stop being mean to the person I love, kind of thing. And then she's sitting in your room with you and she's saying, do you play with this? Okay, throw it away. I'm just random things off. This is my little, like, I like the bells. Anyway, but just, one thing at a time, and you're deciding, and that's why it's coming up right now. Some people have interpreted this as like psychic attack,
Yeah.
or they're noticing all of these memories are just rushing up and like as almost like a flashback, like an acid trip or something. And this is designed to help you to remember to see it because it's still there and it needs to be healed. And
I couldn't agree more. And I think that's been a great big misunderstanding. And I think all the demon possession and all this psychic attack, as you say, and all that sort of business, everything's meant for a purpose. And my thing is that if we're feeling emotionally disturbed, it's a lesson or an action that needs to be taken, because something must have hooked onto something that's already within us that needs bringing into the light, really. So that's why I've got maybe 3 or 4 trusted people to say this has come up, And the thing is, shame the devil to say it's about this, right? And let's be honest, there's only a few things. It'll either be something to do with sex, violence, or stealing. There's not much else after that, really. And that's it. And they're basically instincts and stuff that we perverted or misdirected or whatever, right? And if you can get somebody who's not going to elaborate and go off and can say, look, this memory's come up, right? This is what I did. And he'll say to me or she'll say to me, right, what did you do then? Well, I did this. Well, maybe you're given the opportunity now to take the exact opposite action, right? Oh, do I have to? Because that's the little kid doesn't want to do it. Yes, you do. You do. So go and do it. And so, you might have said yes to somebody when really you should have said no. So you go back and you say, look, I've changed my mind. I'm awfully sorry, but I said yes. And I'm going to say no. And most people, I have a phrase, and I say this to people look, there's something playing on my mind. Would you mind if I get it off my chest? And everybody says yes to that. Everybody. Now, then when you deliver your truth and you tell the truth, if they get disturbed by it, that's not your problem. That's their lesson then, right? And so in a strange way, spirit or the soul or whatever this thing is that's guiding us, it's almost using you as you grow up. You're helping other people to face themselves as well. So it's almost like a big wave of cleansing that's going on. The way I see it, Mella, at the moment is it's like we've got these 12 channels coming in and they're all different diameter tubes. They talk about string theory and entanglement and all that. Well, I talk about tube theory, and there's all sorts of bits of shit in the tube. So what we've got to do is we've got to, through meditation and breathing and direction, we've got to, like pipe cleaners. And so as we're doing that, all the gunge comes up. We breathe it away and let it go rather than let it get into our heads and reanalyzing it and pushing it back down. Let it go, breathe it away, then look at it. And as you get some space, it's almost like what you thought was going on is exactly the opposite of what's really going on. They call it false memory syndrome, they call it, I also noticed about myself is I jump to conclusions in the first couple fractions of a second. And it's best to say nothing, absolutely nothing, right? And then look at it from more of a sort of a distance, if you like, and then really see what's going on, I don't know what all that was about, but it's just about growing up, and it's creating more space for more flow to come through.
Yeah, and it's all designed to be for your highest joy and highest good. It's meant to help you, all of it, and like sometimes pulling that Band-Aid off feels like someone's being mean, but they're helping you, like these other examples of what's being unburdened, because the words that I'll typically use to describe the phase of what we're in a global way right now is a life review. And so this is something that happened to me years and years ago. This is actually where they called me crazy back then in my teenage years. The Pleiadians started coming, and it turns out in the 90s, it's not best to tell people when you're talking to the Pleiadians. So in fact, it was the same year that the white calf buffalo was first born in the Lakota Nation reservation, which is significant for the prophecy of the Rainbow Warriors. And anyhow, they taught this thing that I found out later on is called quantum healing, which is what's being presented for us to do right now. If you want to, it's best if you do it. It's kind of like doing shadow work, so you don't have to be, or inner child work is another word people use, instead of in order to help you to not be in the dark night of the soul anymore. You can stay in the dark night and do your whole thing. You can on autopilot. It might take twice as many years, you know. And so, though, doing it head on is the same concept here, you know. So quantum healing, what I was taught, and it's so useful, is when these life review type situations come up, they're meant to give you the ability to change the shoes you're standing in those moments, and be a part of understanding where they're coming from too, because most of our offense against ourselves is believing what you think someone else is thinking about you.
Absolutely.
Right. And then also changing the story. Changing the story. You go ahead and change your past. Do it. It feels like you're daydreaming. It feels weird at first, but then you heal it and you uncomplicate your energy from this earlier time, and it heals your now moment. But this is the weirdest part, is it also heals the moments in between then and now. Because some people won't even remember the story being that happened at all anymore after you heal it. It's like you undid the past.
What I've learned is, as well, is sequential. If you're being guided by spirit or intuition, or your higher self, whatever, however or your guardian angel, however you want to say this, if you ask your heart and soul and say, please present, that's in the now, please present me with what I need to work on now, because my head might be saying I need to go for a 3-mile run, but my heart might be, or my higher power might be saying, no, you need to go and do the dishes and put them all away before you go. You see, even really, really sort of mundane type things. And I heard you say the other day somewhere along the line, I think you were talking to Elsa or something, when you don't want to do the dishes, but when you've done them, it's a certain sense of, I'm so glad that I've done that, And it says, doesn't it, in the Desiderata poem, beyond the wholesome discipline, be gentle with yourself, right? But you've got to do some wholesome discipline before you're gentle with yourself, And sometimes spirit will come in and it'll smack you at the back of the head to say, just get it done. It's not to me. It's not all about gentle Jesus, meek and mild. I think that's a bit of a con job, really, that religion's chucked in there, because sometimes when it comes in, it scares it. So it's coming now. I can feel it coming in. And when this case, see, I've got like a thing up my spine.
Go ahead.
Yeah, it's going to come through now. Let me try and explain what happens. Is it comes up from my feet. It's like there's 2 holes in the soles of my feet, and it comes up through hollow tubes in my leg. Then it comes into my perineum area, right? And then it starts to come and sort of make its way up my spine. And what's happening now is at my shoulders, it's almost like there's 2 frigging big wings coming up now. But then the teeth thing comes in like a... Bulako saptikot jotamona, bulak sayotna, buyaka sayo, yetsopola saptikado, hello shaya, And now what I've got is a Norse thing now. I always get this. It's, like the dragon boats coming in, right? That's what comes with this now. And I get a very Scandinavian thing comes in as well. But what also comes in is a great big black dragon with red eyes, swishing its tail to say, get out of the way because I'm coming through, right? Now, that was the only reason, the only way that used to come out is when I was as drunk as a skunk. That used to come out and cause chaos. But I know now, Mela, that that's here to protect me if I ever need it. I don't have to call it in. It's with me all the time, And so Elsa calls that, what did she call it? Before maketh man, because it's a rock, rock E.T. and stuff like that, And when she said it, and I've had confirmation from other sources as well, and they say to me, oh, there's a black dragon with you. And I think, oh, yeah, thanks very much, But I do it now. And the other thing is when I play certain types of music, especially the bass stuff, it's right there, like dancing with me, shaking its arse, and giving it loads, and playing out. So that's that one. But when it comes in, it frightens people. But sometimes when I do light language with people, right, it actually is a comfort to them as well. And I never know what it's going to do to them, because it's not for me head to understand this stuff. It's just to try and express it. Does that make sense?
Yeah, definitely. That's how all of the things from spirit flows. I find we'll notice them come entering through our vessel from different directions or locations. Sometimes it's based on how we're standing, sitting, or laying. Though it's fascinating too that this is. I just started to kind of tear up because you reminded me. You brought me back to that moment that. So something else that happened 24 years ago was the first time I met the rock people. The rock people is what I call them. Everybody has different words. Were of the Four Corners in southern Utah, and this was a really powerful experience. I'd never noticed that the rock contained consciousness before then, and that once they began to speak, and I was straight sober. I just want to tell you, this is when I was hanging out with AA people, so I was like nothing, like, and I went down there and had such a profound experience. I was 22, I think, and I don't know. Yeah, I was 22. And a lot happened. That was also when I discovered that I had an attachment since I was 4, when I had my near-death experience. And the local shaman down there helped me to remove it. What I'm saying here, though, is that the rock people are the most ancient ones here. And the most wise, but they talk so slow. So if you actually took the video that you guys heard earlier when you, Joe, were doing this, if you sped it up, it likely will sound. You'll may be able to actually pick up words that in today's language. It's so fascinating. So I know I kind of went off topic there a little bit.
No, not at all. No, I don't think there's such a thing as going off topic. I think it's all meant, really. And I think if we don't head it to stuff and let the head come in to sort of soften it or change it or whatever, and just keep going, I think that's exactly meant all the time. But that Norse thing is, and I know that we talk about Odin, a lot of the three of us do, or and the crows and stuff like that. But I get Thor as well with the hammer, because I get Thor and the power. But I tell you, who's been coming to me a lot recently is Neptune, the Trident, and Poseidon as well. So there's a lot of oceanic stuff going on for me, at least, But you see, it's coming up my spine now in a different way now, And I've got this thing called, it's like a dolphin meditation, where you blow all the shit out of the crown of your head like a blowhole, you know what I mean? All this sort of stuff. So they're all coming back. But for some reason, and I don't know the reason for this, and I don't care really, I don't really bother. But I have this big thing with Sirius, but it's not Sirius A and B, it's Sirius C, right? Sirius C. And I think that's the triangulation point. I think it's representative of the heart, but it's also to do, I keep going on this while it's coming out, it's also to do with oceanic consciousness and a great cleansing and a dissolving of all the gunge, right? And I think if we can all imagine in some way that we surrender and we almost float down to the bottom of the ocean, right, where we can breathe, by the way, you can breathe in there's no problem, right? And all the stuff will be washed away, and all the flotsam and jetsam, or whatever it's called, will float to the surface, and it'll give us an opportunity then, as clean, right, to create a new world going forward. No idea at all, but pick the bones out of that one.
Well, actually, I'm glad you brought it up again. Is this triangle stuff? I'm circling back to that for a second, because we talked about the plate, the breastplate, and the sacred geometry. There's also one on each of our shoulder blades. Did you know that? And so we have 3 plates, and it's a triangle that's around our heart. And so then you called, I think you said chronic triangle. What did you say before? I
can't remember. I have no idea.
I don't know. Maybe I'm trying to read my handwriting. I took a note.
Oh, pranic. It's the pranic triangle. A prana, like the spirits. Pranic triangle, yeah.
And the fact that this word and this knowing is already in there, because this is the other part of this clearing that you're talking about, that we've been talking about. And it's getting stuff off. We carry the weight of the world thinking that we need to be the responsible party. We got to cure, solve, help, heal everybody else. When in fact, it's true. It feels like it's a cop out. I know it does. But if you allow yourself to heal yourself, just as you were saying, what it is inside you is the outside world, you heal everybody else. You really freaking do. And on top of that, I'm noticing that when it comes to specific types of trauma, which most of us have the basics, like there's like the basic 7 or whatever, I don't know, making up a number, but we all have some of this similar qualities. When we have something similar to another person that maybe is bedridden, maybe they're not able to get out of bed because of the weight is so intense. Maybe, so they're not even able to begin to address their own healing. When you heal your healing, some kind of trauma that's similar to theirs, you lighten their load and they're able to get out of bed, maybe a little bit more and more as we go. And so the same thing here happens is get those backpacks full of rocks off your back, set them down for a minute and notice what it feels like to be you. And then you start to unburden these plates on your back, these plates that are actually meant to help you with your energetic wings. And then you have harmony back. Now you've brought the triangle back. So that's why you reminded me to mention this, is that you have a scientific word that also explains what's happening in energy and spirit.
But the heart is triangular, isn't it? This is the whole thing. This is the left brain, this is the right brain, this is masculine, this is feminine. They're always fighting with one another, and sometimes they might agree, but it's only a temporary sort of thing, really. True union, comes by letting go of both of these and going into this here. It's the child, the golden child, this triangulation point. That's what brings them together. And it brings us to this neutral point, really. It says in the book somewhere, for by this time we have been placed in a position of neutrality. So in that sort of objective place where that side's not fighting with that side, there's temporarily a peace of mind. So you get a peace of mind by focusing in your heart, it's all these weird things. But in the end, it's just about one thing and one thing alone, is surrender and acceptance. That everything's exactly how it's supposed to be right now at this moment. But our heads, expectare means to look outwards to the future. It comes in, the head always talks in should. It shouldn't be like this, or it should be like this. That's an ego thing, really. In my view, that's ego. And the other thing I have a sort of a thing with, right, is people when they say, I'm going to set the intention, something in me goes, oh, here we go. As if you know what's coming up. I'm going to set the intention. Do you see what I mean? So to me, there's a difference between using your imagination or envisioning. And I think envisioning, it emerges and is given to you rather than placed there by your tricky dicky head.
Yeah.
You see?
Yeah.
And that's I think Native Americans, they used to go on vision quest. Where they go and they'd sit there and they'd basically just wait and something emerged to them and showed them what their purpose was. Because intuition only works in the now moment. Yeah. Because if you're not in the now moment, then you're either looking backwards or looking forwards, and therefore you're not being, whether we like it or not, could be wrong, whether you like it or not, you're not being guided by your intuition, but you're being guided by the past or expectation of the future. Good God.
It's all fear or expectation.
Exactly.
Fear.
Exactly. And fear and pride. Fear and pride are the two obstructions to going forward and being happy. Because fear on the one side says, that's the little child. Fear on the one side says, I can't do that, or do I have to, right? And the other one, the arrogant, sort of head, the intellectual head, will say, no, I don't need to do that. I've already done that, So it will come up with some justification why it doesn't have to take an action to grow up. Both of those, so it's hard. So, I mean, they call this transactional analysis, but in transactional analysis, because I work in that field, loads of people who do transactional analysis haven't got a clue what they're talking about because they're still working from psychology and intellect. The solution is to metaphorically decapitate yourself, throw your head away, and ask your heart, please show me in this moment what action do I need to take. So acting on information received from your soul, not your head. Good God.
Right.
Quick, kick me off. I'm in
You're right,
mode.
though. I mean, when we've been told for so long, and I've always been told by spirit this is wrong, and most of my life I kept my mouth shut about this, is that our brain has nothing to do with thought. It has nothing to do with thought. In fact, the first several seconds of a thought isn't even yours. It's a freaking transmission, all of it. It's like those ads when you go to a website that they've been following your stroke path for too long and are trying to sell you stuff, whatever. It's like, do you want this one? How about this one? How about this one? They're waiting for you to click it, and so the hang up I find most people having in this that I've observed in this life, including myself, is then getting hung up on the thought itself. And thinking that it was originally from us. And so it's mine though. And then judging self. And now you're going to shame and guilt and fear. And those are the three lower chakras. And when those are inspired, those are the blocks for the three lower chakras, I meant to say. When those are inspired and brought in, activated, then the chakras above the solar plexus go numb. In fact, you'll notice a sensation of draining sensation from the crown down when you go to a sensation of fear, shame, or guilt. Those three blocks for those three chakras. And allowing yourself to realize that what all that needs to be done is to not own any thought. And this is the other part of it. I won't go on too long, I promise. But
okay, carry on.
This was really fun to discover in 2020. I remember it was like a big groundbreaking thing. Is that it was discovered that about 51% of the world had internal dialogue, and the other less than 50%. It wasn't a precise percentage, that confused me a little bit, but don't have it. I think Undecided kind of threw off the percentage. They don't have any thoughts. They will see a visual of something when they're considering, but they don't have voice. And this is just stick with me. It's kind of fun to find that people who have these internal dialogues tend to already be in channeling state 90% of their lives and don't even realize that they've been in channeling state. Not all of what's being channeled through us in this way is something that's going to be great for us either. And when we have all of this stuff consumed inside of us, all of these thoughts are rolling around in there. I'm going to show a weird example. This is what it looks like. This is a thought. You can only see little edges, little corners of it. But then if you speak it out or write it out, you can flatten it out, and to see from start to finish, it's not even a complicated thing. It's a freaking string. You know what I mean? Like whatever it is, it's not a complicated thing that once it is able to come out. So, but I find most people get into that whole mind F thing most often due to a thought that originates from some other source. So knowing that in itself solves 90% of your daily difficulties regarding this.
And if it's a thought that brings with it a negative emotion, that will threaten the ego, and the ego then will go on the defensive. And most people are living our whole lives on the defensive. And when we listen to people, we're not listening to what they're saying, we're listening so that we can defend ourselves just in case, and when you get freed from that, so they don't hear a whole conversation that they'll butt in so they mightn't be saying anything, but they're working out some sort of response rather than feeling and hearing what's actually coming in. It's called learning to listen and listening to learn. And Mela, I was like that all the time. I was always sort of justifying just in case and stuff like that, watching their reactions, like you said before, watching their reactions to change my story to keep them happy, right? And I don't anymore, and I don't do things to make people purposely unhappy. Well, some people do, especially if they're from Ireland. But sometimes I'll throw jokes in, right, just for a joke, and see if they take the bait really and stuff like that, because that's part of me fun. I have to have some fun. But it's always meant with love, because I've got this thing inside me that's always, even though I said to before, I look miserable and they call me Dr. Lightoff, but on the inside, I've mostly always got this bubbly, happy feeling, but it's not directed towards anybody or anything. And I think that's what true freedom is, that it almost like comes through us and out of every pore of our skin. And that's what real freedom is. It's like radiating unconditional love. And here's the thing that I found as well. I thought I was a really, really loving person, and when I was in relationships, I couldn't possibly love you any more than anybody else and all that. And I realized that what I was really was a control freak and an imprisoner, really. And if anybody tried to get away from me, that's when all the trouble started then. But I thought I loved them so much, and I can see it was just romanticism, fantasy, and basically emotional insecurity.
Right. Trying to respond.
Yeah, and it's when you see it though, it's like, Christ almighty, I just never realized, and you can let yourself off the hook, because when you're in denial, everybody else can see it except yourself. And it's great. And that's why the program of AA to me is magnificent, because humiliation comes before humility. You can't think your way into humility, because it's not a thought, it's a feeling, really. So before peace of mind must come emotional turmoil, right? It's the truth, according to me.
And I'm happy you brought this up, because this is there was a secret that I didn't know. I felt like it was a secret, is that in order to access that window, that space, was because I didn't know, I hadn't experienced what it felt like to truly love anyone. I'm not saying a specific anyone, until I released all of I had to forgive myself. I had to, and most of us are so good at forgiving everybody else. We don't realize often when we're forgiving someone, we're taking responsibility. We're diminishing what they had done. Not always, but often we'll say, well, I shouldn't have done that. Or, well, if you take some of the responsibility, that's great if you heal it. But what that is also piling up here. It's piling up shame, blame, responsibility for traumatic events that have been left unresolved, because you still haven't forgiven yourself for your part in it. I'm not saying that there's any fact behind it, but that doesn't matter when it comes to experiences in the heart. If your heart feels it, then it's true for your heart. Therefore, I did this. In fact, it's called the Forgiveness Meditation by Brian Scott. It's on YouTube. I don't typically try to suggest anyone else's content, because I don't know how that was supposed to work. But there you go. It's really freaking phenomenal. And through this particular meditation, was able to forgive myself enough that I felt what it was like to love myself. And then something amazing happened. All of a sudden, I had access to unending love for everyone, in a way that, I loved people for my ability before this healing, but the kind of love that I have now for everyone is so beautiful and so pure. It just was blocked by this self-disdain that I really did have for so long, and that's part of what they do in the steps too, is healing these parts of yourself, so you can access that self-love.
I agree, and the steps. We're going on about it because it's a shared experience, but it's tough. The process that you have to go through to I call it quantum disentanglement, really. That to untie the knot, because when you brought that string up, I say that to people is just keep going, keep getting. It's like ticker tape, and you have to get all the ticker tape out until the end bit comes up to say turn left, because we've got our own solutions within us. But unless we fully express what's really going on with a trusted person, not somebody who's going to gossip or give you advice or say, oh, you want to get shut of her, she's no good for you. You don't want that. So all you want really is somebody to listen earnestly, right, and not say anything. But then you've gone through because God knows, whatever God is. God knows all your misdirections and your this, that. Yeah. But the whole thing is about the program of recovery of AA is you've got to share all your dirty and darkest secrets with another human being. And they say to you at the end, because I've done this with hundreds and hundreds of people, I say to them at the end is there anything in you at all that you're going to take to the grave with you? And then await, and you get a sense of, here's something. I won't tell you the content, but here's something. I was working with somebody, and then I said, are you sure now there's nothing else in there? And this is true, obviously it's true. And I said, what about Newquay in 1972? I fucking know, excuse me. I've got no idea where that came from. And they looked at me with horror and they said, how did you know about that? And I just went, no idea. Tell me about Newquay in 1972 and a whole load of stuff. And they didn't realize, they didn't know. This is the whole point. They didn't know it was coming, but it came up. And I could see them just sort of almost like dissolve into like relaxation, and all sorts of tears came up. I don't know why I'm talking about this, but if two or more are gathered in for good purpose, magical and mystical things happen to help you to be free. And this is what I'm saying to everyone now. So if your intention is to try and be helpful and harmless and to do good works without being a saint, then it will work for you. But if you're hanging on to anything, it's like shit in a pipe. If there's a bit sticking out over time, it starts to clog up again, really.
Right, exactly. And Aaron also says the same thing. Being witnessed is so powerful. Just that having that moment, like you said, if that person hadn't shared that part, if you weren't being put in the position to be able to bring that out for them, that would have still been blocking them from the sunlight of the Spirit. It's something that is so powerful that we've been taught that something has to be like painful to be useful. Like the most spiritual things are hard and all this stuff. And it's not, it's usually something simple, like opening up and expressing yourself, releasing those things.
Yeah. I say to people, how are you in yourself? And they look at yourself, and what do you mean? Say, how are you really feeling deep down in yourself? And they say, well, to be honest, and I think, here we go, right. I feel shit, right. I'm full of resentment and full of this, that, and the other. I didn't realize it was all in there. And I just go on, then keep going, and just encourage them, And sometimes as they're doing it, anger comes up, and I say, keep going. It's like being a snake charmer, you know what I mean? It's like, go on, more, good, more. Anything else, and you almost, as a sponsor, you almost get a feeling, no, it's done, And what happened to me is, after I did this with my sponsor, right, he said to me now, he said, when you go home, he said, just sit down quietly and just reflect, because we went through another thing where I made the list of all persons I'd harmed, and I went through the list, and we were there for hours and hours and hours, because I hurt a lot of people when I was in the drink, and when I wasn't drinking as well. I've got to be honest, because of my emotional state, So I made this list, and then we went out into his sort of little garden place, and we set light to it, and it went, So that was that going, all symbolically. And then I went home, and that night I sat on my bed. I was in a shitty flat, 9 stories up, right? And I didn't have the courage to sleep with the light on, even 38 years of age, And I sat on my bed, and this voice said to me, Joseph, we love you. right? I thought, fucking hell, oh God Almighty, what's happening? See, I've got it. It's coming up my spine now. And I said, and that's very, very nice. I said, but fuck off, excuse my French, fuck off and come back in the morning, right? And honest to God, Mella, the next morning, I woke up in a completely different world. Now, the world hadn't changed, but my perception of the world had changed. And that's what this is. Every single problem of humanity, it's just two things. It's faulty logic and misdirected instinct. And that's the end of the story, really. And this is all about realigning with your authentic self by becoming truthful and honest, really. Right. See, I feel like the priest now. In nomine Patris et Filii et Spiritus.
Do 3 rosemaries and call me in the morning.
Yeah, well, yeah. I always do 10 Hail Marys, you naughty boy, and 5 Our Fathers, and you'll be all right.
I was brought up Mormon, so I don't know for sure. Mormons are basically Catholics, and you just can't. The added sin is you can't drink alcohol or have sex in any other fashion than missionary style.
Yeah, it's good that you put that in order. Alcohol first, because it would never have happened otherwise. Anyway, that's another story. But I look back seriously. I look back at things because I was brought up in a really strict Irish Roman Catholic background. And anything to do with that S word, right, was a sin, and you're immediately going to hell.
Yeah, right? Yeah.
And our first sex, because I was taught by Christian brothers, right, who were the most horrendous people in the world. And our sex education lesson was, right, you boys might be feeling feelings that you haven't had before, right? So there's that one. And we're all looking around laughing. And you may be growing hair in places where you've never had hair before, and we're all going snigger, snigger, snigger. And if you touch it, you're going to hell. Well, we were all in hell, weren't we, that night? So I mean, so it was like I've been in hell since I was 13 or 14 years of age or something like that. But it's nonsense. It's nonsense.
A bunch of bullshit. Yeah. It's designed to teach everyone to believe at an early age and constantly that they're already a sinner and there's really not much that you can do about it, and to be in a place of fear all of the time. And that will effectively keep people just unawakened enough. I don't know how to explain it other than that. There's that parasitical energy that attaches to the brainstem. And in this place, it's very near to the hippocampus, which is why it's so fascinating. The hippocampus is glowing now, and which is a part of the brain that's responsible for long-term memory, for anyone wondering. It's lighting up our pineal gland and our brainstem, and it's releasing this parasitical attachment that every one of us have had. It's like, you could call it a spirit or an essence. I don't know if it's some type of consciousness. It's the voice at the back of your mind, the voice at the back of your head. We've all known it's there. It's the naysayer, the low self-worth, the you can't measure up kind of voice. It helps, and it to keep our vibration low, just low enough to not be able to rise above. Keeps us just asleep enough, and it's connected through the root chakra too. It's like this, it looks like a C kind of, and it's being released right now. So that's why a lot of people are having a lot of neck and upper back stuff, the back of the head stuff. There's a lot of weird things people are talking about. And I'm finding that as this releases itself, then we're able to notice some of this early indoctrination that we didn't realize was still operating as a background program. So that's being released now. I just send light to it, but I'm sure that there's a more solid answer to it. I just find that if there's a vacancy, I fill that with light.
Well, I've got, since you were saying that, I've got a clear picture of a snake like that coming out of my head like that. So there's the sea like that. There's a snake coming up my spine. So it's the normal story, but it was golden. It was almost like Egyptian, like the golden sort of a thing, but the snake like that, right, coming out. And in fact, look, I'm getting like a wiggly thing, yeah, a shivery thing coming up my spine and stuff like this, because it's to find somebody that you can say, look, I'm uncomfortable with these things. I'm making a point, obviously, tonight for a reason. It's to find someone you can trust and say, look, I heard that fella and Mella going on about this, and I'm not comfortable with that. So can we just talk it through? And you find that when you share it with somebody, they've gone through similar stuff. So then you start to join, and then you might find another little group, you know, where you can get this stuff off your chest because it's so deeply within us. And as you say, it was designed by the Catholic Church to keep us on our toes and to be afraid all of our lives, you know. And I was, you know, I mean, I'm 70 years of age now, but in my mind, there's part of me still going 11 years of age because that's when I was sent away to start my priest training, you know, and lots of stuff happened there, you know. And I've looked back because I thought maybe I was sexually abused there by the priests and stuff. And I don't think that I was, you know, but a lot of weird stuff happened there. And I was thinking, am I still guarding myself against these memories? And I don't think I am. I don't feel it, you know. But I think there was all sorts of other weird stuff going on, you know. But it doesn't matter whether it was or whether it isn't. It doesn't matter to me now. I'm not bothered because I feel all right. And if I feel disturbed, I'll ring up a sponsor or I'll ring up a friend and say, look, this is coming up. Can I just get it off my chest? And I'll spend 5 minutes spilling the beans. And then he'll say, is that it? And I'll say, yeah, thanks very much. Carry on.
Is that it?
You know.
Okay.
Yeah, is that it? Yeah. And these are massive. What I realized were natural tendencies and urges, right? Were perfectly natural. Because there were some people who weren't Catholic who didn't have these hang-ups at all, you know. And I think, how can that possibly be so?
Right. You made a really important point. I love this. Latte Java Don says the truth will set you free, but first it will piss you off. Yes, it will. Yeah. A lot of, I am told this is what I'm told by Spirit. Okay, so I know there's some schools of thought that disagree with me, and that's okay. You're welcome to disagree. Is it doesn't actually need to be seen as an image or to acknowledge an event. You don't have to remember any of these moments. What needs to occur is to allow yourself to feel the emotion as it moves through you, even if you don't know why or where it came from. That it's there. The reason it's there is for you to feel it. And the sooner you lean into it rather than recoiling from it, the faster it will dissolve itself. It just needs to be observed. It's emotion, energy in motion. It's not meant to take a squat on the couch and hang out for 5 years. You know, it's meant to go. And so I know that sometimes it is associated, it's connected with images and senses of other kinds. If it's not, though, there's nothing faulty or wrong about that. You don't need to develop or to create an image or a scenario or allow yourself to find it in order to heal it. Just feel it. It may be about molestation. It may be that someone took your candy bar. It may be, whatever.
Yeah.
It could be something horrific and something simple and mild. But to you, it felt like that. And that's your pain threshold at that moment in your life. Honor it. Allow it to be felt so it can go and you can move on.
I couldn't agree more. And I think being guided by your soul or spirit or higher power or God or whatever, it will send it up sequentially in amounts that you can handle. It really won't. If you keep in touch with it, it will not give you more than you can handle, right? At one moment at a time. But we do, don't we? Human beings don't like feeling uncomfortable. So we try and avoid the feeling. But really, it's just a feeling of almost like this evolutionary impulse that's trying to take us to the next stage of our being, right? And we keep squashing it down because it's uncomfortable, really. So it's because mindfulness is just to sit and observe. Don't interfere. Don't do anything else. Oh, yeah, but I feel uncomfortable. Just sit. And if anything, just breathe out, because it's the out breath that disengages you from the fight and flight response. And how do I know that? Because I've got a PhD in the subject. And basically, that's what I found out is it's a parasympathetic response that is a disengaging the emotional fight and flight response. So that means that you're breathing relaxation, you're allowing all the tension to go away, and then the inspiration comes through then. But if you grip yourself, if you grip your teeth, if you tighten your throat, if you tighten your muscles, if you're waiting for the fight, you can't get inspiration. You can only go back to the coping strategies that you developed in the first 7 years of your life. And then you'll spend all your life justifying why you know you're acting like a child, right? And it's really difficult. But when you can get into that and start loving that kid and say, look, son, or look, daughter, or look, darling, don't worry about that. Me and you, hand in hand, we're going to walk through this bit here, right? And that's what I really think they call about reparenting yourself. You know, Mel, I mean, we know this, don't we? That nothing happening outside is not going on in the inside first, because the soul will attract to itself what it needs to learn next in its own progress, right? It sets the scene, it brings the players in and all that sort of business so that you can actually take the action to neutralize the karma that you've developed or your ancestors have developed in the past. So then when you do it, a whole load new energy flushes through and you can go forward until the next one comes up. And I think that that's how it works, really. Joseph Campbell and his journey, the journey, the hero's journey, really.
Yeah, 100%. It's like squeezing a grape. You're going to I don't know. I'm just, for some reason, that's the visual I'm using here. I actually noticed that this is really cool. I'm just going to go this way instead. But first, I'm going to say thank you to Dawn, Latte Java Dawn, for the $5. Thank you very much. That was really awesome. She says, keep it up. Thank you. Is that we notice in meditation and healing, all of these things. So here's the thing, Joe. I don't have the same kind of vocabulary as a lot of people because I've been doing this on my own for a long time. My first near-death experience is when I was 4. And so my reference is language that Spirit's given me or that we've come up with together. You know what I mean? What we do in order to create the more balanced sphere that we are, you breathe in through your nose, and I always hold it. And like you mentioned, the dolphin breath, I've always done it that way. You hold it for a few, whatever, until just before you feel uncomfortable. It's a natural cycle, but the exhalation, the kind of breathing out, and then fully emptying the lungs. When this happens, the light expands out, this white light like a balloon every time you exhale. When you exhale is when it blows up, when it expands. And it's when because this is just what Spirit says. So it's just so much fun to see this, is that because you're emptying the seats of the densities when you're exhaling. So I see it like little teeny microscopic poofs of smoke. You can call it distortion or density. You can call it whatever you want. But they just kind of, and a lot of them, like little particles of dust, become the light. Some of them are like flies and like, I'm getting out of here. I'm going to go do my thing somewhere else. And as they go, then you can fill in the empty seats with this light. And the light takes up more space than density, 3 times more, in fact. And so every time you exhale a little teeny density, now you got this much more light. And so on and so on and so on. Before you know it, it's far beyond the limits of the room that you're in, the building you're in, your neighborhood, your block, your street, your so on and so on and so on, until we actually merge like this, like back here, like all these beautiful, and we connect. In order to be in a perfect aligned way, all we need to do is breathe. That's it.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Just become aware of your breathing. And that's it. And that's what I'm trying to, because I learned that and I've learned the sort of neuroscience of it. I've seen it in scientific terms. When I put people on the heart monitor and get them to breathe, they can immediately see how their breath is connected to the way their heart's working. And then they can breathe in a certain way when their heart goes into a coherent mode. In coherence, the 2 sides of their heads start to work in harmony with one another. So it happens. It's scientific, it's physiological, but it's actually sending love back to the head, which sends it back to consciousness as well. And then as we breathe in, it brings it back in. So there's the figure of 8, because there's one figure of 8 going that way. There's another figure of 8 going that way, but then there's another figure of 8 going that way as well. So there's the sphere, there's the golden sphere, you know, and I get that again, that golden sphere with like a crucifixy thing on the top. I don't know what that means, but so at a point then we can sit in silence and almost then direct ourselves to where we want to go journeying next, really. So we can start consciously navigating, right, to different places, different extragalactic places and all that. That's where I feel that we're all being led to, is that we're, you know, conscious travelers almost. You know?
Yeah.
What was I going to say? So inspire means to breathe in and expire means to breathe out. So, you know, inspirational. So we breathe it in. But I have a mantra, you might have heard it. It's breathe in the light. So a big deep breath in. And then breathe out the shite. It's a mantra. Yeah. So in the space between breaths, you collect all the crap, like you've just said, all the flies and all everything else, and breathe them out. But the important thing I've learned in the way I say it is breathe it out far enough that it doesn't get into your head. So you can say, I think I'll just think about that again, because as soon as you do that, it goes and it's back in again, really. So just let it go, breathe it away, you know.
I know we need to wrap this up. I was going to add one other thing I noticed. This is useful for anyone doing this practice. Just as you said, I've noticed that lately, anyway, the more that I think it's, I don't know if I think it's a global thing, but I also think that it's doing it often enough that you get to a point where what you're breathing out are a little bit more resistant densities or things that are not in alignment with you. And so we need to be slightly more persistent than we had been previously. Like when I'm doing this in the group meditations, I'm noticing that especially around or near to the root chakra area, there's these densities that we need to say things after. I'm finding that words that come through me are we're thanking you for your service, though that your service is no longer required. You need to leave now. Like, it's like you're talking to that, 7-year-old boy next door that just won't stop showing up. Why are you doing that? And all this is like, you know what? You have to go home. And, it may hurt their feelings, but they need to go. They're not doing anyone any good being here. And to be very clear about that is all that's needed. So.
I agree. There's so much root and sacral stuff going on, and when we're working on the root and sacral, sometimes you might feel angry as it releases itself. That's okay. Breathe it out, because the heart is like a transmuting device which transforms it into a positive energy, But if it goes from your gut into your head, right, that's just old stuff, you know what I mean? There's no sort of mediating point. But there's loads and loads of people going through sacral stuff. Now, sacral is sex, but it's also the creative energy. So unless we come to terms with our own feelings about that and discuss it through with people and open it up, then we can't get the full creative hit that's trying to come through as well. So, and there's loads of stuff going. I mean, I talk to loads of people. People get onto me about having problems with endometriosis, and they have problems in that area and stuff like that. Mostly women come on. And because I've got I know a few medical words, I try and explain it to them, but I try and explain it more in terms of stuck energy, really, more than anything else, And sometimes when they do healing there, all sorts of things come back, hormonal problems occur and all that. That's a really, really positive thing. If you're being healed in that area, see it as a positive thing, because it's almost like a sloughing off of stuff that's not working anymore. To be rejuvenated, actually, in a way. It's almost like going back into menstrual cycles and stuff like that. I don't know why I'm talking about this. There must be a reason. So the point is, welcome that, really, If you go back to the doctors, they'll wonder what the hell's going on, and they'll try and give you all sorts of tablets and stuff. But just seeing it as basically a clearance, really, So, and hip problems and all that sort of business. There's loads of stuff being worked on there globally. So I've said that there. Can I do some light language, because I can feel it coming through?
Please. Should I make you big?
Okay. Can do. I've been trying for that all my life.
The wrong way.
So just anybody who's listening, if you just want to sit comfortably as best you can, with your spine reasonably upright, but not too tense or too tight. And you can keep your eyes open or you can close them. I can understand you wanting to keep your eyes open and watching me, but there you go. So just become aware of your jaw and the root of your tongue, really, and just your teeth. And just gently allow the breath to come in almost by itself. And as you breathe out, just allow any stress and tension to relax in your jaw, in your teeth, and in your throat. And now just become aware of your eyes. And just sort of drop your eyes, let them sort of drop into the back of your head, into your brain itself. Breathe in the light. Collect all that stress and tension in your brain. And as you breathe it out, just allow yourself just to relax deeper and deeper into a beautiful state of relaxation. Allow your shoulders to relax. Allow your arms to relax. Just become aware of your spine, just almost like dissolve into your seat if you're sitting down, and just let go of your whole body. Just allow it to let go. And just imagine that you're just floating and bobbing up and down in beautiful ocean. Nothing to worry about. Nothing can harm you. You just completely and utterly feel free. And now, I just want you now, just listen to the voice. And I can start to feel, I can feel it coming in now. But there'll just be a sort of introduction. Here sorry aram takta chef ne haltibe. Kia sorry nash halam digra saptik halam laya surian datakna has zije patne heads got a mer to go because ne. So sometimes when these come in, I don't exactly know what they are fully. I sometimes get prehistoric animals coming in, and even rock beings, you know, like the Hulk, but like a rock thing, and they're with us at the moment. And they represent to me at least really solid as a rock, and really solid grounding. And I think, yeah, he hasn't finished yet. Okay. We'll have to finish now because my throat's going. Okay, so just once again, just try and relax as best you can. I don't know how these things work, but I think it's more to do with the tone. There's no sort of real understanding of what the words mean, but it's just to allow that sort of vibration to find its way and to de-obstruct or to go and fill in some gaps that might be missing or something. As I say, I'm just learning this stuff myself, but it seems that if I get the push to do it, I should do it, and so I've done it. So now, just in your own time now, just make your way back to the room, and we'll see if there's any sort of feedback from there. So thanks very much. Thank you.
That was awesome. What? Weird. What did I do? There we go.
Yeah, so as I say, I mean, I don't care now. I just do it, and I just go with the feeling, you know. And if it means that I'm on the way back to the psychiatric department, then so be it. I don't care, you know. But it feels all right to me, and I feel great afterwards. And it does take me somewhere, you know. But it doesn't. It takes me somewhere, but it doesn't take over me. It doesn't take me over. Do you know what I mean? Because I'm sort of in the background all the time, fully aware of what's going on. So that's how I just try and explain it, you know. And as I say, it makes me feel good. And if somebody else gets the benefit of it, then fine, you know. And if you don't, then fine.
I always have. You completed that at 3:33. I don't know if, because your time is different than mine, so you probably had no idea. I mean, you were also in trance too. I felt, what that actually connected to, I noticed most, was the root and sacral chakras, and the fact that you were just talking about it, and then it had to come up, that was the activation of that. I also find that our inner child hides in the sacral chakra as a consciousness. It's the most interesting thing. Yeah. So, thank you so much for helping the healing. And you got a super chat too. So I'll be sending you some money because now we made $10.
Oh, no.
Thank you so much, Gina. No. That was really nice of you.
Thank you, Gina. So thank you, Mela, for inviting me. It's lovely to see you. As I say, let's do this again further down the line when the time is right. And maybe we can, talking about triangulation, maybe we can bring our friend in from Australia.
That'll be fun. Right. That'll be fun.
Yeah, it would. And we'll talk nonsense and see what emerges then. But thanks, everybody. Nice to see you, although I can't see you. But it's all about the base dawn. Indeed, it is. Right.
It is. And
so thank you, my love, and may the force remain with you forever and ever.
With you. I do would like to add a quick announcement that an hour and a half from now or so, just about, we are meeting for our Zoom group. If anyone is interested to join, it's free, and it's in the community section of this YouTube channel. So if you want to come, it's there for you. Thank you so much. And, let's definitely keep that open. I'm looking forward to the triangulation of this conversation. Yeah. So
maybe something around the Christmas time.
That'd be fun. Yeah, that'd be perfect. Thanks. All right. Sending you love. Thank you once again.
Thanks, everybody.